Picture this, you're a young child, full of energy, and you just so happen to be an only child. So you're just absolutely spoiled rotten with anything you could want. You have no job to go to, no taxes to pay, and no weird coworkers that make you question the sanity of humanity. Then, one day, all that comes crumbling down around you, and you're met with the harsh reality of having to share your life with someone else. Your parents decided to go out to an orphanage and adopt another child. You're flabbergasted by their decision and wonder if you're just not enough for them. This reality becomes even more horrific, though, when you realize that they adopted a mouse. You were so insufficient for them that they had to go out and adopt a mouse for you to now compete with. This all sounds like a real little nightmare, right? Well, turns out that's just part of the plot of the movie Stuart Little, and not the actual little nightmare we're going to be talking about today. What's up, everyone, and welcome back to Frickin' Uncultured, the channel where we talk about whatever we want to, but it usually pertains to video games. So my name is Chandler, and I am going to be hosting this episode. As stated at the beginning of the video, we will not be talking about the hit 1999 movie Stuart Little today, so I'm sorry if I broke any hearts out there, but we're going to be talking about something else little instead. My self-esteem. In all seriousness, though, today we're going to be reviewing Little Nightmares 3. And just to give a quick recap on how Andy and I grade things, there are 4 categories that we grade stuff on. This is the wrong side of the screen. It's on this side of the screen. I don't know how a camera works. These are the 4 categories that we grade games on, and basically we give a game on a scale of 1 to 10 their rating, 10 obviously being the best. That's enough nonsense, though, so let's go ahead and get into the story of Little Nightmares 3. In this game, you play as either Lo or Alone, or as my daughter likes to call them, Birdie and Robot. Together, the two of them must navigate and escape the Spiral, a place that's a conglomerate of terrifying locations and home to equally terrifying residents. And that's the gist of the story of Little Nightmares 3, which honestly isn't too much, but that's also without diving into spoilers. One thing I definitely love that the game does is it doesn't tell its story, it shows it, which is something that the franchise has always done, but 3 continues to do so, and it does so successfully. Which is even more impressive whenever you learn that 3 wasn't even made by the original studio Tarsier, but instead by Supermassive Games. For now, though, we're going to put a pin in story, though, because we are going to come back to it later, but let's go ahead and move on to the gameplay. If you've played the other games in the Little Nightmares franchise, then you have a good understanding of how the gameplay of 3 works. But there are some new additions. We'll start with the basics, though, for those who haven't played any games in this series. The Little Nightmares games are puzzle platformers. You traverse through different areas, having to jump or climb massive obstacles, and use your brain to figure out how to progress through areas that require a bit of thinking. Certain levels will even have gimmick items to them, such as the first area of the third game having an umbrella for you to use to catch updrafts to get to higher ground, or use as a buffer to slow your fall to a lower area. 3 also gives both Lo and Alone permanent items as well, shaking things up a bit. Lo is equipped with a bow and arrow, or I guess arrows since he has more than one, but bow and arrow sounds better than bow and arrows. I don't know, maybe that's just me. For taking care of things at a distance, though. And Alone carries a wrench around for a quick smash. Both of these items are used in a small handful of combat scenarios and puzzle solving as well, and they can be fun. Arguably the biggest shakeup that this game adds to the franchise, though, is that this one is actually multiplayer. At the beginning of your game, you can choose which character you want, or you can hook up a second controller and have somebody go in with you. And this is also where the gameplay starts to falter. As already stated, these games are puzzle platformers, which means that if this game is co-op, that the elements of platforming and puzzle solving are centered around doing things together. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Just take Split Fiction or It Takes Two as examples. Both are multiplayer puzzle platformers centered around you depending on one another to progress through the game. The difference is that those 2 titles are solely multiplayer, though. You cannot play through Split Fiction or It Takes Two on your own. you are required to have someone play with you. Little Nightmares 3 was made in the middle ground, being able to play solo or with someone. Now, these sections of platforming and puzzle solving have to be watered down, since you can't have the complexity of being a fully single player game or one that's completely built around having to play with another person. This causes the game to come across as mundane and repetitive if you're playing in single player, since all these sections are centered around playing co-op, which also makes it mundane and repetitive during co-op, since it doesn't hit the highs that a game like Split Fiction does. It's honestly a shame that they decided to cater to both sides whenever making 3, because it makes it really stand out among the trilogy as the more mediocre experience whenever it comes to gameplay. There are good ideas present, it's just that they're not fully fleshed out. That wraps up the gameplay portion though, so let's go ahead and move on to graphics and art style. Graphically, Little Nightmares 3 is a really good looking game, provided you're playing on performance mode and not quality, because quality will make your frame rate drop pretty bad, at least on PS5, and will make your character's animations stretch across the screen randomly. As far as the art style, this game is very creative, and I had already mentioned that this game shows its story instead of telling it, and the art style really lends to that to make it creative and expressive. Honestly, I would argue that the art style is this game's greatest strength. All the characters have this almost claymation look to them, and I love it. But I'm also a sucker for claymation. Now, the last thing we still need to talk about is the soundtrack, and it's a bit of a mixed bag. The soundtrack for Little Nightmares 3 is interesting. Most of the soundtrack is pretty unmemorable, but then you get to the third area, and it just slaps you in the face. It was definitely the highlight of it all, but it's not anything I remember after being done. But credit where credit is due, that area's track is great. And that's it for Little Nightmares 3. All around, it's a game with mediocre gameplay, a killer art style, and a middling soundtrack. But now is where we go back and we pull that pin out of the story. Let's talk a little about the end of the game, but I'm still not going to spoil anything. The previous two games have incredibly memorable endings that also act as an emotional punch to the gut. They also both have a theme of social commentary running throughout them, and the endings magnify it in some shape or form while also building the world and lore around them to great success. Not so much with 3 though. 3 does have social commentary running throughout it, but it honestly feels a little flimsy compared to the previous entries, and there's nothing that really adds to the wider world and lore of Little Nightmares. As far as the ending, they try to replicate that emotional gut punch the other games have, but it comes across, more of them spitting in your face with how cliche it is. Now, they are coming out with DLC over the course of the next year, so maybe they'll expand on it in that. But for something I already paid money for, I'm a little disappointed with the product that I received, and I don't feel incentivized to get it. And that wraps up the review. Honestly, Little Nightmares 3 is not a bad game. It's just a game I think you should get whenever it's on sale. As far as the DLC goes, I guess time will tell as it comes out, and maybe in the future I will do an update video where we go over the DLC once it is all released. Honestly, I think Supermassive Games deserves another shot at this franchise. They have good ideas here, I just feel like it was a bit over ambitious. Maybe for a 4th title if they get the chance to make one, they can scale it back and look at 1 and 2 and see what really made those games good and try to craft their own version of that magic, if that makes sense. But, I guess we'll see. All that's left to do now is give the game its rating, and we here at Frickin' Uncultured give Little Nightmares 3 a 7 out of 10. But thank you all so much for watching the video. Make sure you like and you subscribe and you comment and all that fun stuff. Andy and I love the interaction whenever you guys comment. We've been getting more here recently. We've also been getting a lot of new viewers and a lot of new subscribers. Thank you all for being here and spending time with us. It means the world to us. We just hope that you stay around, that you comment and you let us know what you think of the projects that we do, so that way we can grow as creators as well to make more entertaining content for you guys. So, once again, thank you all so much for watching. We will see you next time, and remember to keep it uncultured.